Coming up on 5 Minute News. Biden unveils $1.9 trillion plan to stem virus and steady economy. Expanded vaccine rollout in US plagued with problems. And US police 3 times more likely to use force against left-wing protesters. It's Friday, January 15. I'm Anthony Davis. Saying the nation faces a crisis of deep human suffering, President-elect Joe Biden unveiled a $1.9 trillion coronavirus plan on Thursday to turn the tide on the pandemic, speeding up vaccines and pumping out financial help to those struggling with the prolonged economic fallout. Called the American Rescue Plan, the legislative proposal would meet Biden's goal of administering 100 million vaccines by the 100th day of his administration, while advancing his objective of reopening most schools by the spring. On a parallel track, he believes it will deliver another round of aid to stabilize the economy, while the public health effort seeks the upper hand on the pandemic. His plan includes $1,400 checks for most Americans, which on top of the $600 provided in the most recent COVID-19 bill would bring the total to $2,000 that Biden has called for. It would also extend a temporary boost in unemployment benefits and a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures through September. And it shoehorns in long-term Democratic policy aims, such as increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour, expanding paid leave for workers, and increasing tax credits for families with children. In a joint statement, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer praised Biden for including liberal priorities, saying how they would move quickly to pass them. But Democrats have narrow margins in both chambers of Congress, and Republicans will likely push back. Under Biden's multi-pronged strategy, about $400 billion would go directly to combating the pandemic, while the rest is focused on economic relief and aid to states and localities. Biden is asking Americans to override their sense of pandemic fatigue and recommit to wearing masks, practicing social distancing, and avoiding indoor gatherings, particularly larger ones. Next Wednesday, when Joe Biden is sworn in as president, it will also mark the anniversary of COVID-19 in the United States. The rapid expansion of COVID-19 vaccinations to senior citizens across the US has led to bottlenecks, system crashes, and hard feelings in many states because of overwhelming demands for the shots. Mississippi's health department stopped taking new appointments the same day it began accepting them because of a monumental surge in requests. People had to wait hours to book vaccinations through a state website or a toll-free number on Tuesday and Wednesday, and many were booted off the site because of technical problems and had to start over. In California, counties begged for more coronavirus vaccines to reach the millions of senior citizens. Hospitals in South Carolina ran out of appointment slots within hours. Phone lines in Georgia were jammed. Up until the last few days, healthcare workers and nursing home patients had been given priority in most places around the US. But amid frustration over the slow rollout, states have thrown open the line to many of the nation's 54 million senior citizens with the blessing of Donald Trump's administration. There is no definitive, up-to-date list of patients to contact, no roll call of suitable candidates. Critics say with such a fragmented healthcare system, it could take years to vaccinate everybody. Meanwhile, the US recorded 3,848 deaths on Wednesday, down from an all-time high of 4,327 the day before, according to Johns Hopkins University. The nation's overall death toll from COVID-19 has topped 385,000. More than 11.1 million Americans, or over 3% of the US population, have had their first shot of the vaccine, a gain of around 800,000 from the day before, according to the CDC yesterday. The goal of inoculating anywhere between 70 and 85% of the population to achieve herd immunity and conquer the outbreak is still many months away. Meanwhile, some states, like Minnesota, are waiting before throwing open the doors. As we learn more, we will work to make sure everyone who is eligible for a vaccine knows how, where, and when they can get their shots, the health department said in an email. Everyone's opportunity to get vaccinated will come. It will just take some time. Supermarkets and pharmacies have also got in on the program, with Kroger supermarkets offering vaccination in some states. CVS and Rite Aid pharmacies have also been part of the distribution network, in the absence of any organized and socialized healthcare system. Police in the United States are 3 times more likely to use force against left-wing protesters than right-wing ones, according to new data from a non-profit that monitors political violence around the world. In the past 10 months, U.S. law enforcement agencies have used tear gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets, and beatings at a much higher percentage at Black Lives Matter demonstrations than at pro-Trump or other right-wing or neo-Nazi protests. Law enforcement officers were also more likely to use force against left-wing demonstrators, whether the protests remained peaceful or not. The statistics, based on law enforcement responses to more than 13,000 protests across the United States since April last year, show a clear disparity in how agencies have responded to the historic wave of Black Lives Matter protests against police violence, compared with demonstrations organized by Trump supporters. Barack Obama highlighted an earlier version of these statistics on the 8th of January, arguing that they provided a useful frame of reference for understanding Americans' outrage over the failure of Capitol Police to stop a mob of thousands of white supremacist Trump supporters from invading and looting the Capitol on January 6th, a response that prompted renewed scrutiny of the level of violence and aggression American police forces use against black versus white Americans. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.